My name is Mike, and I built a $600,000 stock portfolio in just 4 years. Most people pay their bills first and they invest what's left. That's backwards. I actually learned this from Damon from Shark Tank. To get rich, you need to invest your money first, letting it begin to compound, and then you reuse those same dollars to live your life. Let me show you what I mean. This is what most people do, the lazy paycheck. They get paid and they disperse that money into different buckets. For example, you might get paid $2,000 and then you disperse maybe $200 to your emergency fund, $200 to your savings, $200 to fun. Then you make sure you pay your bills with say $1,200. And then if you happen to have any money left, then it goes to your investments. That is why they stay broke. They're doing it backwards. The wealthy get paid, they put their money into investments, and they let it compound forever, just like Damon said. And then you borrow back at low interest rates. Here's an illustration to show you exactly what this looks like. With money that comes in, I buy assets like VGT, SPMO, SEHG, and others. Now, the return isn't that relevant as long as it's higher than your interest rate. For example, if I earned 10% and my margin costs me 8%, I still get to keep the 2% spread. I'll explain this in more detail later. After my money comes in and I use it to buy assets, I then spend my money on credit cards, earning an additional 2% cash back on my Citibank card. Next, I borrow money at low interest rates. Right now I pay just 4.65% interest. And then I use that borrowed money to pay back the credit cards that I initially spent money on, never paying $1 in interest. The real power is that my assets grow forever. I never have to sell and pay capital gains tax. My assets get to grow and compound for the rest of my life. And I get to keep this spread, which is the difference between my asset growth and the borrowed money interest rate. I'm about to show you exactly what this looks like in a few various different situations. For now, we're going to start with very unrealistic numbers just to show you that it doesn't really matter as long as you have a difference between your growth and your cost. Now, on the right-hand side, you're going to see your portfolio value. This is going to be where your money that comes in goes. Now we're going to start with $10,000, imagining that you have, say, $10,000 in savings or checking or whatever that might look like. And we're going to say that you earn 10% return. We're going to say that you use your entire paycheck, and we're just going to use numbers. It doesn't really matter what these numbers are, but let's make them lower for people that maybe don't make as much. Now, monthly contribution, let's assume this is all of the money that comes in. So let's say $3,000 is all of your money that comes in every month. Now over here, this is going to be your margin. Now your margin is going to be, we'll say, half of your total portfolio value to start. So let's say that it's $5,000. And every month it's going to go up by $2,500 and your contributions are going to go up by $3,000 every month. Now here, let's say that your margin costs 8%. Which is very unrealistic because right now my margin costs me 4.65%. So it's almost double what my margin costs me right now. Now, let's say that we do this for 10 years for both of them. So here you can see that if you were to invest your money and you were to borrow back for bills rather than to have your money sitting in, say, a savings account or sitting in a checking account, at the end of 10 years, you would have $173,000 in growth with just a 10% return and with an 8% margin cost. Now let's do 15 years for each of these. You would have $406,000. Now let's say that your margin is more realistic, like 6%. Now at the end of 15 years, you would have $548,000. Now let's say that you earn a 12% return. Now after that same 15 years, you have $819,000. Now let's extend the time horizon to say 30 years, because most of us are probably going to be around for quite some time. I had to do a double take because I was a little surprised by that, but you have $8 million at the end of 30 years. And this is with just a $500 spread, and you're even starting with $5,000 of borrowed money and $10,000 of your own money to make. Now let's go back to a 10% return and a 8% borrowing cost to make some people happy. You still have over $3 million after 30 years using this concept. I hope that this illustrates the power of this concept to you. Now, many of you might have an extra $1,000 per month more than you spend. So let's look at what that might look like. At the end of 10 years, you have $300,000. At the end of 15 years, you have almost $700,000. At the end of 25 years, you have $2.7 million. And after 30 years, you have $5 million. That's with just a 3% difference in growth and borrowing cost. Even if it's 10%, who cares? I'm happy with $5 million. And guess what? I have more than $1,000 in this spread here. So if I have, say, $2,500 in this spread here, at the end of 30 years, I have $8 million. There's a reason that Albert Einstein said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Now, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't really budget anymore. And I don't really know what my income is because it changes every single month. But let's use my actual portfolio value, and I have $602,000. And my actual margin cost is $162,000. Now, I popped these numbers into my calculator and I did my actual interest rate. Now, let's say that it's 6%, just because over time it is going to change. Let's say that I make $6,000 per month, $1,000 more than I borrow. Over the course of 15 years, my portfolio is going to outpace my margin cost by over $4.7 million. Now, over the course of 30 years, this would be $36 million outpaced. Now, realistically, I'm not going to work for 30 years, right? But I am going to work for at least 10 more years, and at a 12% return, that's going to give me spread of over $2 million. And let's say that it's 14% return, that's going to give me $2.8 million. Even if I were to spend exactly as much as I earn each month, I would still have a spread of over $2.6 million at the end of just 10 years. This is what I learned from Damon from Shark Tank. And this is why it's so powerful to invest and then pay your bills rather than pay your bills and then invest what's left. The problem with paying your bills first and then investing is that most people never get around to investing. And that's why most people never end up with meaningful amounts of money. Let's look at some returns. So year to date, I'm up 28%. When I go to all, so this goes back to 2022, I'm up 119%. And when I divide this by 4, which is the number of years, I have returned 29%. Now, when I go to benchmarks, this is going to be my time-weighted return compared to my money-weighted return, which is what you just saw on the other screen. Money-weighted return takes into account when I'm putting my money into the market, and this often benefits me because I'm often buying during dips with large and meaningful amounts of money, which is why you see a different return on this screen, which is my time-weighted return. The time-weighted return doesn't take into account timing. It just shows the return over that period of time. And if I were to compare my time-weighted return to the S&P 500, I'm up about 18%. And when I compare my money-weighted return to the S&P 500, which was 119%, I've beaten the S&P 500 by 50% over the last 4 years, which annually comes out to me beating the S&P 500 by over 12.5% per year for the last 5 years. Not too shabby. Now, I'm not trying to claim that I'm Warren Buffett or Peter Lynch or anyone like that. It's a lot easier to do this with small amounts of money than it is with big amounts of money because there's a lot less on the table. But I do have a system that I have down pretty good, and it's been working for me very well for the past 4 years. And for all of the people that say I got lucky, and I will be at a $2 million portfolio in less than 5 years. See you next time.